All right, we'll make a, we'll make a motion to start call to order the finance meeting for Wednesday, June 24th at 6 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? With us is Joe, Peter, Kevin, myself, Jimmy, and Linda are on their way, and Gordon's here. I told Kara we'd continue with hers because that's where we ended last, so make a motion to take up item 3.
So
All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed? It's a request for $20,000 from free cash for special counsel costs, as well as if we need to go into executive session, we do have the form here to do that as well. So, Kara?
Hi, I don't want to mess up.
Aye.
So we very briefly discussed this last time at the last minute. I do have, I don't know what you have in front of you, I do have copies of an update on the pending litigation and a spreadsheet of all of our costs
Okay.
to date, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we got that last time, but yeah, thank you.
Just take that. Okay.
So, I'm happy to go through or to answer any questions, and basically, the request for the additional funds is because we still have a number of bills that are gonna come in before the end of the fiscal year, and those are listed at the end of the spreadsheet. It's, basically, we get bills kind of a month behind, so we still don't have Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn for May, Buckley, Richardson, we have only through May 15th, so there's another month and a half. Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn for June, and then Attorney Emma that's now handling the Wilcox case will be a bill again through June 30th. So, you know, the 20,000 on top of what we have left is a bit of a guess that hopefully it will cover all those that are still gonna come in. I think where I kind of started to leave off was that some of the Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn more recent bills in the Williams case have been a little bit higher because we recently completed discovery. I do have a summary that they gave me of all of the discovery that was done, and they also just served a summary judgment motion. So all of that work is gonna be in those bills that are coming in. The Buckley Richardson is in regards to the Suffolk Street contract dispute, and we recently just selected a mediator. So we don't have the date picked yet. I'm guessing it probably actually won't be until the fall. And then the Wilcox case is the newest case involving both the city and the geriatric authority. And so we filed an answer and served written discovery on the plaintiff in that case.
I think Counselor Leahy had questions for the billables for, was it Emma? Am I saying that right? Is that the one he wanted, or?
Well, I haven't received a bill yet for the Wilcox case. All of the bills, the two cases Attorney Emma handled prior were the Cruz and DeJesus cases against the police department, and those are all, I mean, the amounts of the bills are all on the spreadsheet. Those have both settled. I think he had actually asked for Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I do have the bills from the last 3 months. I don't know. I mean, I can give you kind of the summary. I think he kind of questioned when I had said that it was more for the discovery. I mean, I can give you the brief rundown of what that has involved.
Okay.
It's been,
When was can you just go into a few things such as
Sure.
who's counsel for the plaintiff and when was the case filed and and where are we at in the case?
so for Williams, the case was filed back in 2011.
It's an 11.
It has, I will give you I brought my notes because it's a long procedural history. The plaintiff's attorney is Trevon Bailey. He's an attorney out of Springfield.
Okay.
And so originally, so it was filed in 2011. In 2012, we filed a motion to dismiss, which was, for the most part, in large part, granted. 9 counts were granted by the Superior Court. The plaintiff appealed that to the appeals court, which reinstated 4 out of the 9 claims. Then the city subsequently appealed that decision, actually all the way to the SJC, and those appeals were both denied in 2014. So that's why we're kind of back. It was filed in 2011. It's been obviously 4 years, and we're still only doing discovery. So once our appeal was denied, we were back to starting discovery, which is recently, it's been basically this past year.
How much was the cost of appeal?
Well, as of October 1st, 2014, we had spent $36,000.
And legal fees?
Yeah, and that would include both the appeals, or all of the appeals. And you have to keep in mind that we originally won in the Superior Court, and the plaintiff appealed it to the appeals court, and we took it to the next level. So that's one of those cases where what can you do? You prevail the first time around and then,
Yeah.
lose. So, so then, since October, Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn had originally projected spending approximately about 200 hours on discovery. To date, now that it's concluded, they actually spent 140 hours. The discovery included, so there's 3 named defendants, the city, Rob Kane, and Michael Sullivan. And so discovery included requests for production of documents and interrogatories to all 3 named defendants that had to be answered. There also was a supplemental request for production of documents. Again, from the update from Sullivan, Hayes, and Quinn, they reviewed over 2,000 pages of documents in order to respond to these requests from the plaintiff. And we also obviously served written discovery to the plaintiff and obviously received documents back in response. The same for the interrogatories, and then there was a deposition of the plaintiff, Jackie Williams, and a deposition of Rob Kane. The plaintiff also amended her complaint during this time to add a claim of retaliation. We did oppose it, and the Superior Court denied that, so another count was added, and that's part of the time that was included, since October of 2014.
Okay, so at this point, we're in for another 40,000, 40, over 40,000, post the first 36,000?
Right, I did figure, so it's the total, the total is now, to date, 74,000.
74,000.
Yeah.
What was plaintiff's demand in this case?
$500,000.
500,000. Has there been any offers of settlement? And we can go in executive session if this becomes too that we're south of 500,000? Has there been any settlement talk at least?
No, I can say that without going into executive session. There's been a few conversations, but nothing that's been fruitful.
Concrete.
So, we've proceeded and served the motion for summary judgment. Since that has
I can see where this is going, already, right? We're 74,000 and we're only in, is discovery complete?
It's completed, right.
And on the tracking order, all those times have worked their way
The
out?
discovery deadline has expired. Actually, the plaintiff wanted to extend it, and we did not agree to that.
And the court
So
agreed
that
with you?
has- They didn't pursue it at the court, so it's expired at this point.
Okay.
And now, now we've served the motion for summary judgment maybe 2 weeks ago, so they have 21 days to respond. And so that's where it is.
The frustration is, and I had asked at the last meeting some statistics on some of these cases, that could you tell us the number of cases, these high price cases, ones where legal fees exceed, say, $50,000, What number of them ever go to a jury verdict? And of those that have gone to a jury verdict, how many have we won?
I mean, I wasn't really able.
I can't recall the last
go
time
back,
we
right.
actually ever lost a jury verdict.
No, I mean, I mean, honestly, in the time that I've been here, I don't think there's actually been a trial, so that's going on.
That's a statement there
on
in and of
8
itself,
years.
isn't it? We've never actually gotten to trial, and yet we're spending hundreds of thousands in discovery.
Well, but I
And,
think,
and to even, we're not even getting ever to trial, and it's interesting to me that, you know,
I mean,
what new information comes out? Let me ask you this, without getting into specifics, because again, we're not at this time in executive session, but just give me your professional opinion. You know the facts that surround this case. What new information have we uncovered in the discovery process that has strengthened or weakened our case? Just in general terms, are we actually finding out new facts in discovery, or is this basically just people are peppering each other back and forth with depositions and interrogatories and productions of documents?
no, I mean, it's absolutely, I mean, a complaint doesn't in any way, shape, or form set out all the facts of the case. I mean, I can say, you know, without anything that's privileged or confidential, I mean, in the Williams case, there was definitely information gained through the plaintiff's deposition that has led to the summary judgment motion. You know, looking back at some of the most recently settled cases, the Cruz case, which was against Officer Barkham, a number of other named officers in the city, you know, the discovery through the depositions of the officers and the plaintiff led again to a summary judgment motion that led to the dismissal of all but 2 counts, and then a settlement that was far below what it would have cost to go to trial. You know, the same in the De Jesus case, which settled for extremely small amount. We did a summary judgment. I mean, that one was a little bit different. There was probably more limited discovery. It was the plaintiff's deposition, some written discovery, but, you know, again, a summary judgment motion that resulted in the claim against the city being dismissed, and then at the pretrial conference settling for very short money. So, you know, it's absolutely leading to a point where the case is in a...
We're acquiring material facts that are
Oh,
advantageous to us.
absolutely, absolutely.
So my question is, of the percentage of discovery that we're requesting in these cases, how much is us plaintiff-driven versus us defendant-driven discovery request? Is it 50-50? Is it more them than us? Is it more we're asking for things? What tends to be your opinion on that?
I mean, I think it's both. I think you have to keep in mind when we're obviously, as the defendant, the burden is on the plaintiff
Right.
to prove their case, and so we want to get everything that we can. You know, we want to force them to do that and hold them to the standard that they have to prove their case. So, I mean, it totally depends on plaintiff's counsel, and, you know, to say, I would say it probably is 50-50. You know, and obviously we then have a duty to defend it, and
course.
we obviously have to respond, which can be quite time-consuming as well.
It's just very frustrating to see the quantity of dollars it's
Sure.
taking to get through discovery, and I just marvel that is that what's going on in the rest of the Superior Court? That all the other, is it just city defendants that are having these type of bills going through discovery, or is it your experience or that this is going on all the Superior Court cases? It seems
I mean,
this is, I don't, you know, where people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars pre-trial. Is that the standard in your experience at the Superior
I
Court?
think, you know, I mean, I think it's fair. I don't think it's out of the norm. I think you would see the same thing if an insurance company was involved, that they're going to do, an insurance company, I think, would handle it much the same way, that you're going to go to through discovery to get all the facts, and then make a decision of the bottom line of the cost of settlement versus the cost of trial. And I think you have to keep in mind too that, you know, obviously you might have a high settlement on top of the legal fees. If you go to trial, even if you think you have the most winnable case, you never know what a jury or a judge will do. And a lot of the statutes in the context of employment or discrimination, you can be subject to, you know, treble damages or attorney's
Right.
fees of the other side. So there's clearly a greater risk.
What's the hourly rate that we're generally on these cases that we're paying?
The one thing I didn't double check. Sullivan, Hayes and Quinn, their hourly rate is about 180. And about,
Man, I'm guessing.
it's, well, I have it in the budget, actually. I can find the Sullivan, Hayes and Quinn. I think Attorney Emma was not more than 200. And I will say that Buckley Richardson is a little bit higher for their partners, but they have a lower associate rate.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about was on these gun cases, the license to carry cases. Could you the same as when Chief Scott was in, or and number two is you know, how many of them are getting overturned?
Sure, I can get you specifics because I've probably
Yeah.
handled most of them. For the most, I can only think of maybe one or two that have been overturned. For the most part, they are upheld. They kind of come in waves, it seems like, where there'll be like two or three that you have, and then you don't have any right now. We have one pending one, or two pending ones.
Okay.
The one that's on there, that's in an appeal process, and then there's one currently in district court. So I wouldn't say there's been, you know, I handled a number of them for Chief Scott before he left, and I don't think there's been any marked increase under Chief Niswinger.
Time issues,
Yep,
because
almost
we
set.
got two more. Any other questions or a motion?
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the transfer?
Second.
Right, so motion is to approve and was seconded. All those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the other two are related, so make a motion to take up
20,000, yeah.
1 and 2 as a package. All those in
moved.
favor? All
Aye.
opposed? This is the unemployment of 440 and then unemployment of 90. And they've been tabled a couple times, so
Motion to remove from the table?
all
So
in
moved.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And Bellamy's here with some other information to give to us on this.
You get shut out again.
I even have a handout today.
Sorry, Howie.
When we talked about this last week, I think we had a little bit of a disconnect because I was really talking about three related transfers and you were focusing on the first of three. So I want to start just by describing those three transfers. Transfer 1 and 2 deal with the problem with unemployment, wherein the schools are experiencing a significant increase in unemployment based on the layoffs of 87 people. Transfers 2 and 3 deal with a subsequent problem that emerged where, for reasons I still haven't figured out, we're experiencing a higher level of FICA Medicare charges than budgeted or than we experienced last year. For the life of me, I can't figure out why. All right, let's deal with the unemployment first. One of the questions raised last week was, do the schools pay us for this unemployment? So I went specifically to what I call, let's just call it school spending, and I can aver through auditing the numbers that the schools give us $6.1 million towards the collective unemployment, FICA, medical, dental, and life insurance benefits. That's a subtraction from gross school spending. Okay? So we have $6.1 million of their money because they budgeted that's what they would spend this year. As it turns out, they're actually going to spend $5.935 million, less than that. Yes, they're going to spend on unemployment, they're going to spend $500,000 more than budgeted. But offsetting that, they're going to spend $550,000 less on medical benefits, and similarly with dental benefits and so forth. So actually, we're in the position where we're doing better rather than worse with the benefit situation that has arisen because of the 87 layoffs that they made. Surprise. Surprised me. I thought it was about a wash. I came in here last week thinking it was a wash, but it turns out when you examine the numbers, it's actually in the city's favor rather than the school's favor.
Do those numbers that you just provided include the 440 and the 90?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so how much have they spent before the transfers?
We spent roughly $400,000 in the months of July, August, September, and that used up the entire budget, which was either $400,000 or $440,000. So in the months of October, November, December, January, we spent another $440,000, and that's what the first transfer was. I put a transfer in once I knew what those amounts were. At the same time, I knew we would spend more, and the prediction was that the monthly amounts would drop off substantially. But until I actually saw that drop off, I didn't want to put another transfer in because I wanted to be fairly precise. Now, I'm happy to report that for the month of May, the amount of unemployment billed to us was $6,000 as opposed to the $110,000 we were billed back in September. So that drop off did indeed happen starting in about the month of February. Because basically, between June and February, most people had used up their 26 weeks.
How much was the original budget for unemployment for last year? Do you recall?
It was either 400 or 440, and I can
Okay, so we'll just,
I happen to have it. I can look it up.
oh, okay.
I just don't remember off the top. $440,000.
440.
Right.
So that was the original. And have we made any transfers in during the year?
No.
No. So these would be adding 530 to that account.
Yes. Which
Okay.
is for a total of, I think it's 960, 970. Yes.
970, yep.
Yep. Yeah,
Now-
that's my prediction of where we will come out
Okay.
at the end
So,
of June.
of the 970, you're saying that 500,000 of that is because, what percentage of that 970 is the schools?
Most of it. I'm saying 860.
860,
Yeah.
110. So 110 was city-related unemployment? Okay. By the way, can we get a list from you of who that 110 included at some point?
We sent a list of who was the school, identifying school versus.
Oh, we did? Oh,
School
beautiful.
versus, school versus
Didn't say who
city.
it just said.
Oh, I wanted names. I wanted names and positions.
You can have that in executive session, but not in a public session.
Why, that's a public record.
Not according to our lawyers.
Really?
Yeah.
Unemployment record? People getting checks from the city for unemployment is not a public record?
Ask our counsel.
All right, I'll speak to Kara about that. That's interesting. I was under the understanding, anybody that gets any appropriation of money for any reason, that's a public record. You catch a check for retirement, those are public records. I routinely,
Paychecks are public records. For some reason, unemployment is not, and I'm not.
retirement checks
I'm
are
not the
public
lawyer.
records. That's
I'm not the
interesting.
lawyer.
Unemployment is not a public record. Well, we'll look into
Well, we
that.
can just file the order to go into executive session and get it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. So what you're saying here is that originally 360 was estimated to be the school unemployment.
That was their budget, yes.
Okay, and
That's
then,
on their side, right. We didn't really know.
Okay.
We don't know what it
and
is.
then
on our
it
side.
ended up being this. But what you're saying is that 550 of this was unexpended from other areas, so that, okay, very good.
That is correct.
Okay, well, that answered my concern from last meeting. We'll just get we'll get the list of the names and positions. I'm more concerned about the city side, because I'd like to know who's getting laid off around here.
All right, Joe, did you have a question on this? Because I know we stole your mic, so you couldn't have a question.
They just don't want you to talk.
Thank you. Melanie, I see your point. I think we all do. But we still don't have a question for, I believe we identified, although we didn't get the names, 37, 38 positions for school employees that were laid off in June and rehired in September.
Well, clearly that happened. If you look at that list of positions that we gave you, there were a lot of people who were rehired, and
Okay.
it shows us
So
October.
we essentially gave 38 people a extra bonus vacation paycheck.
As it's explained to me.
No, well, first of
Okay.
all, that's a lot of nonsense. You've gone over that. We've heard it from the schools with all due respect to you. You know, we've heard it from the schools for years, but it just isn't common sense. It isn't ethical. It isn't right. A school teacher's contract is for 10 months, September to the end of June. Their salary is based on 10 months' work. Understandably, if a teacher's position is to be eliminated or teachers not have reasonable expectation of a job in September, they are notified in May, early June, to go looking. That's good. But to allow them to collect on July 1st, by all standards of any logic, is wrong.
I agree with you, but
What are we doing?
I'm not the lawyer who understands exactly
Look,
why that works
lawyers
that
don't
way.
run the city. Lawyers give us opinions. Okay? Something needs to be done. There's, right now, 78 notices have gone out for this year. Yes, as of last week, 78 notices went out. I called up and left a message with Bob Judge, not with you. But the schools have, and the receiver hasn't even taken over until July 1. And of those 78 notices, half of them are the same category of non-certified or
Right.
paras
Yeah.
that will partially be rehired in September.
There's nothing I can do about it. You legislate, do something. I can't. What can I say? I don't know how this works.
Well, the last I
But
looked,
I can understand your
the schools are
frustration.
part of the city. It's not two budgets,
Right.
it's one
They're-
budget.
They're actually 70%
Yeah.
of the.
So
of
the way we
budget.
legislate is we cut. All right? So I'll make that proposal tonight, and if we lose Chapter 70 monies, then the schools can figure it out. If they're not getting the message, then that's the only way we can do it. Thank you.
Any other questions or motions with regards to these two?
Make a motion that we approve the transfers into the unemployment account.
Second.
All right, so the motion is to approve both the 440 and the 90, and it was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Both passed.
Are we done, Mr. Chairman?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, all those
Aye.
opposed?